Well, let's move on to our next item, and that is that California's growth is really slow. It's the slowest in history, as a matter of fact. And why is that? New estimates from the State Department of Finance are showing California's population growth is in fact the slowest in history. What are the negatives and positives of a phenomenon like that? Now, first of all, 63% of millennials, those are ages between 18 and 39. That's really, the middle ground of our young families. They're 63% surveyed are considering moving out of California. And that's a big number. So let's take a look at some of the positives and negatives, perhaps, of this situation. First of all, let's start with a negative. From an economic perspective, there's not much upside because with all population factors slowing, the primary reason for stagnating growth in California is residents moving away. Okay? You'd think that's fixable if our government and our localities get involved in this. California does tend to have boom and bust cycles like any free economy does. But the state budget is overly reliant on the top rich taxpayer, if you will, the ones that pay huge amounts from their income taxes. Okay? The largest portions of residents that are leaving California are working age, middle class families, and they're taking significant economic activity with them. Especially the middle class with families, and they're the ones leaving. Now, expanding labor forces do foster economic growth. So, slower population growth could have a negative effect on the economy, and of course that could ripple to employment. Residents that are moving to states with more affordable housing, coupled with the reluctance by many outside of California to come to the state because they're hearing all about the high prices of the houses and the high cost of living, gasoline, etc. So that's inhibiting some people coming in. So what can we look at as far as possible positives? Well, there'd be less environmental damage, right? Less people, less environmental issues. How about less social problems that could be connected to overcrowding? Or a possible positive is high prices for housing and rent coming down. Maybe. Whether it's for economic or quality of life reasons, people at the lower end are being priced out of the market at this point. That's not good. And that's reflected in the population growth numbers. That increases economic inequality in our state. That's not good. What are possible positives? Let's continue. Let's say your kid or your grandkid could get into USC or Stanford easier, right? That's kind of a selfish way of looking at it, but let's think about this. Maybe your grandkids would have a better chance of making it at a volleyball, a dance, or a baseball or football team or something like that. Oh, how about this one? Traffic won't get worse as fast. It's already getting worse, but it might slow that down some. Another possible positive, how about waiting at our favorite fast food restaurant, shorter line? I know, still kind of a selfish way of looking at it. How about rent increases slowing or actually decreasing? Wow, that would be something. But again, not good for the whole of the state. All right. Oh, here's the last one. You can get Comic-Con tickets. How's that? I know. Well, at any rate, I don't see a lot of positives there either. But you got to look at both sides. In summary, a growing economy is to a large extent reliant upon expanding population. That's just the reality. Low population growth, coupled with aging population and more needs for the aged, also put pressure on the economy. Slow growth also translates into lower tax revenue. And at a time where the California legislature has just approved their budget, which is $21 billion in surplus this year. They're spending every nickel of it. They're going for it with these programs that we've heard about. And so one thing is for sure, California is spending the money that it has, that it could save, that's been tucked away. Legislatures, President Reagan said, they spend like drunken sailors. That's about it, and that's happening right now. Well, at any rate, so where are these people going? We still have a little bit to talk about there. We have a map to show you. Okay, we have the top 10 states there of where Californians are actually moving to. Number 1 is Texas. 2 is Arizona, 3 is Washington, 4, Oregon, 5, Nevada, 6 is Florida, 7 is Colorado, 8 is New York, 9, North Carolina, and 10, Idaho. You can see there on the left side where California is, just look at the top there. You got Washington, then you got Oregon underneath, and then to your right you have Idaho, and then, you got Nevada below Oregon, and then you got your Arizona down there, New Mexico right next to Arizona, and then Texas, right? Let's talk about the top 2 right now. Some of the reasons are there. How about Texas? They're number 1. Lone Star State. They took in 64,000 ex-Californians in the last statistic, which was a year ago. And here's the deal. Their cost of living is about 25% lower than here in California. The estimated median house value, the average house value, 67% lower than California. That's huge. And they also do not collect state income tax. And their sales taxes are very reasonable. So that's a good reason to go to Texas. Now, the downside, I would say, as a native Californian, it's the weather. You hear about Texas twisters, you hear, the Gulf of Mexico, all that stuff. It depends where you live. It's a big state. But still, I think the downside would be the weather, for me at least, not being used to it. But boy, is it tempting. Well, number 2 was Arizona. What's so great about Arizona? Well, they're close by. 60,000 Californians moved out in the previous year. Their cost of living is only about 20% lower, but that's still a decent number. And their housing is 57% lower than California. And their climate is probably more reasonable than Texas, although they do get monsoons. And of course, different areas of the state, it's very diverse. Up north, you've got Flagstaff, a lot of snow. And of course the Grand Canyon, beautiful stuff like that. And so there's still a lot of smaller towns. That one town I'm familiar with is Camp Verde. It's right in the middle of Arizona, and it looks a lot like Temecula. When you come down the hill, from Escondido to Temecula, it looks just like that. And there's a big river running through it, a lot of trees, a lot of greenery. And there you got like a marshal. And he knows everybody in town. I think it's under 5,000 residents. But it's a nice family community, and the weather's decent because it's in the middle of Arizona. All right, enough of that. I don't need to pitch that.